You want more control than you admit. You have always wanted it. That wanting has shaped more of your life than you have been willing to look at directly. Not ambition, not care, not fairness, control. The specific want to be the one who decides. You have given this want other names. It has not changed what it is. Machiavelli studied this over 500 years ago. He named it when no one else would. What he found has not changed. This video will name the architecture underneath the wanting, not the moments when you reached for control, the structure that makes you reach. By the end, you will not be able to call it something else. Machiavelli did not invent the drive for power. He was the first person to write about it honestly. Before The Prince, political philosophy was mostly concerned with how power should be exercised, the virtues of rulers, the obligations of princes, the moral framework that justified authority. Machiavelli dismissed this entirely. He was not interested in how power should work. He was interested in how it actually works. And what he found, observing the courts of Italy, the papacy, the mercenary armies, and the merchant families who ran Florence, was that the drive for control was not an aberration in human behavior. It was the operating system. Everyone wanted it, the virtuous and the vicious alike, the pious and the secular, the good mothers and the corrupt officials, and the generous merchants and the ruthless generals. The difference was not who wanted control. The difference was who admitted it. This is the argument that made The Prince scandalous and kept it scandalous for 500 years. Not that Machiavelli described how to be cruel, that he described how to be honest about a wanting that everyone shared and almost no one acknowledged. The Romans had a concept, libido dominandi, the lust for mastery. Augustine used it as a condemnation. Machiavelli read it as a description, not a judgment about what people should want, an observation about what they do want, always, regardless of what they say. And his central claim, the one that the moral philosophers found intolerable, was this: the person who pretends not to want control does not want it less. They want it in ways they cannot see and cannot therefore manage. That is the distinction this video is built around. Not controlled versus uncontrolled people. Honest hunger versus disguised hunger. And the disguised hunger, Machiavelli argued, is the more dangerous of the two. Not because it is stronger, because its owner cannot see it operating. In the courts of Renaissance Italy, every significant political actor understood that the drive for control was universal. What varied was the sophistication of its management. Lorenzo de' Medici, the man who ran Florence for most of the second half of the 15th century, is remembered as a patron of the arts, a humanist, a generous ruler. He was all of those things. He was also the man who, after the Pazzi conspiracy nearly killed him in 1478, had the conspirators hunted down with a precision that left no one in Florence uncertain about what it cost to move against the Medici. Machiavelli admired this not because he approved of the violence, but because he recognized the honesty of it. Lorenzo knew what he wanted. He acted in accordance with that knowledge. The people around him, the ones who claimed to want only justice, only order, only the good of Florence, were operating the same drive with less transparency and therefore less control over it. Machiavelli discourses, men are so simple and so much inclined to obey immediate necessity that a deceiver will never lack victims for his deceptions. Contemporary research on power dynamics and close relationships has documented a pattern that Machiavelli would have recognized immediately. In long-term partnerships, romantic, professional, familial, the person who explicitly acknowledges their desire for agency and control in the relationship is consistently rated by their partners as more trustworthy and easier to negotiate with than the person who presents as having no such desires. The research explanation is straightforward. A person who knows what they want can be negotiated with. A person who claims to want nothing, who presents their preferences as needs, their boundaries as rules, their control as care, cannot be negotiated with because the negotiation has been preemptively framed as something other than what it is. The disguised hunger is harder to deal with than the visible one, not because the disguised person wants more, because they have hidden the wanting from themselves as well as from everyone around them. You may know someone like this. Or you may recognize something in this description that is not quite about someone else. Think about the last time a decision was made in your life without your input, something that affected you, a plan changed without consultation, a choice made that you were informed of rather than included in. You told yourself it was fine, Or you told yourself you were upset because it was inconsiderate. Or you told yourself it was a communication issue. Machiavelli's framework asks a different question. Not, was it fair? Not, should they have consulted you? But, what did the wanting feel like in that moment? The specific wanting to be the one who was asked, the specific wanting to have been included in the architecture of the decision. That wanting is not the same as wanting fairness. It is the wanting Machiavelli was describing, the libido dominandi, not in its extreme political form, but in the ordinary form it takes in every relationship where resources and decisions are distributed. You told yourself you wanted fairness. Machiavelli would have said you wanted a vote. And there is a difference between those two things that you have probably not examined closely. And now we need to stop talking about what other people want. There's a situation in your life, a relationship, a dynamic, an arrangement where you do not have enough control. You know which one. And you have managed this wanting in some way, not by not wanting. The wanting does not go away. By redirecting it, renaming it, finding places where it can operate without being called what it is. You have managed the wanting in the relationship through care, through knowing what the other person needs before they know it, through being the one who anticipates, who plans, who holds the information. These are not cynical behaviors. They can be genuinely generous, but they also carry information. They are ways of maintaining relevance, of being necessary, of being the person without whom things go wrong. You told yourself it was love, or competence, or the fact that no one else was going to do it. You did not examine what it felt like to stop. Machiavelli does not ask you to judge this. He asks you to see it accurately. Because the person who cannot see their own drive for control will exercise it in ways they cannot account for. And the people around them will feel the weight of it without being able to name it, without the person themselves being able to explain it. This is the pattern Machiavelli found most dangerous, not the prince who pursues power openly. The person who pursues it through the language of care, of service, of selflessness, and cannot see that they are pursuing it at all. You have been that person in at least one relationship. You know which one. And the question Machiavelli leaves you with is not, was it wrong? It is, do you know why you did it? Not the story you told about it. The actual reason. Not care, not competence. The wanting to be the one whose absence would be felt. There is no comfortable answer to that question. Machiavelli did not offer one. He just asked it, precisely. Without apology, Machiavelli's answer to the hunger for control is not suppression. He did not believe suppression worked. He had watched too many people try it. What he observed in the courts, in the marriages, in the political alliances, and the merchant partnerships of Renaissance Italy was that the hunger suppressed became the hunger disguised. And the hunger disguised was always more destructive than the hunger acknowledged, not because it was stronger, because it operated without the owner's awareness and therefore without their control. The irony Machiavelli found most precise was this: the person who refuses to acknowledge their drive for control is, in the end, less in control of it than the person who sees it clearly. Acknowledgement is not the same as indulgence. You can know you want something and choose not to pursue it in a particular way. But you cannot choose not to pursue something you cannot see yourself wanting. It pursues itself. This was his argument against the moral philosophers who told princes to suppress their ambition, their desire for glory, their hunger for mastery. Not that those desires were good, that pretending they did not exist made them ungovernable. The same argument applies to the hunger you carry in your ordinary relationships. The wanting to be consulted, the wanting to be necessary, the wanting to be the one who decides or the one without whom things fall apart. These are not shameful. They are human. What is neither shameful nor admirable, but simply true, is that they operate whether you acknowledge them or not. The acknowledgement is the only point of leverage you have over them. The hand on the chess piece. The question is not whether it moves. It is whether the person moving it knows why. Machiavelli had one more observation about people who learned to see their hunger clearly. They did not stop wanting. They became specific about what they wanted. And specificity, he found, is the beginning of something that looks a great deal like restraint, but is not restraint at all. It is precision. The next question in this cluster is about what happens when you take that precision into a relationship with someone who has never examined their own hunger, and what it costs.